Welcome everyone. We are happy here because we have the visit of Dr. Vania Smith-Oka. We are honored to have her in Puebla, and we would like to interview her because she's very important for our program. So I will allow Dr. Oka to introduce herself.
Thank you, Lisette. I'm Vania Smith-Oka. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Anthropology at Notre Dame, and I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you. I would like to ask you something about your research and why you are here in Puebla. So could you tell us what brought you to Puebla and why Puebla?
Yeah, why Puebla? That's an interesting question. My previous work was in Veracruz, and it was in a rural area, and I really was very interested in working in a city and trying to understand urban health. And so I came in 2008, which is when we met, and I just ended up falling in love with the city.
What kind of research are you doing?
So I've been focusing for a very long time on medical systems, how doctors take decisions, how medical care occurs, the culture of medicine, and within that I'm really interested in questions of reproductive health, how women seek healthcare, how doctors perform different obstetric procedures actually as well.
Perfect. And could you tell us how was your introduction into the medical system here in Puebla? It was easy, it was difficult, and how was that?
So it's been easy and difficult. Every single time I come, it's a new landscape. So right now I'm meeting up with a lot of doctors and directors, and they're really kind and gracious and interesting, but there's also ethics boards that my research has to be approved by before I can do it.
What has made you wanted to be a researcher?
I always follow the questions. I'm fascinated by different questions, and so each of my projects has actually unfolded because there's been lingering questions from the previous one, which then prompts me to figure out the answers to those questions in subsequent ones. So, I've been doing multiple projects over the years, and that's basically the impetus.
Okay, and have you been working in your research with students, students from Notre Dame and students from Puebla, for example?
Yes, over my time at Notre Dame, I've worked with over 50 students, and a large proportion of them have had some interaction with the Puebla program here. I can mention a few. I'm working right now with Julia Ruel, who was, I think, in the Puebla program last semester. Mm-hmm. And then I've worked with students like Megan Marshala, who I think was here in 2014, and then she returned with me for a research project in 2016. Most of these students have done their own research. Once they spend time in Puebla, I would imagine, and you would know the answer to this, most of them want to come back. Yeah. And some of them find me as an advisor to their projects, and that helps them to find questions to return.
Perfect. Do you know a student O'Shaughnessy or no? The one that you mentioned before.
Oh, Lauren O'Connell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lauren was great. I forget what year she was working when she came to Puebla, but what she did when she was here, she was really interested in the paradox of medical students who were also heavy smokers. And so she and I connected when she returned from Puebla, and she realized that she actually wanted to find out why students who are focused on healthcare would also engage in a less than healthy behavior. And so she returned, she did a fabulous project. She then went on to do some wonderful things with the Compañeros en Salud program in Chiapas, and then participated in a lot of different questions of legal and social justice concerns, and I believe has now been accepted to really great law schools, actually.
Could you tell us some advices that you will give to students who would like to do research?
Yeah, so my primary advice is always to students to find what they're passionate about and just to ask questions about it. So the students who find me, some of them are interested in sort of vague questions of medical stuff, and but some of them come because they have really specific interests. Like I've got a group of students now who are really interested in questions of obstetrics and reproductive health, and so they find me that way. So primarily I encourage them to really follow what excites them beyond just what they learn in class, to do something that really they find fulfilling.
Could you tell us if you're going to be working just for pre-med students, or you are open to some other areas?
Oh yeah, no, I mentor students from all sorts of backgrounds. I mean, I would say yes, the bulk of the students who work with me do have an interest in health. Many of them are pre-health students, but many of them are anthropology students. I've mentored a student currently who's a theology double major with pre-health. I've mentored students who are international development studies, health, humanities and society, neuroscience. There's a whole bunch of second majors and minors that the Notre Dame students take.
Perfect. So this is an advice that I can give to the students, that they don't have to be stopped if they think that their major is not a good one to match your research.
No, absolutely. And I think that the Notre Dame experience is very flexible for students to pick up a whole bunch of majors and minors. I mean, I've rarely met a student who's just one thing. They are, double majors, have 5 minors, and do a bunch of other things to sort of flesh out their interests.
Well, now I would like to talk a little bit about your book. This is Professor Vania's book. It's called Becoming Gods. This is a book that I am very interested in. When I began reading, I couldn't stop reading it. Why? I'm going to tell you the reason. The reason is that you know that here in Puebla we receive most of the students are pre-meds. But I think that this book should be a must for our students, because you introduce them to the medical system in Mexico, that is very different from the system in the US. So I think that this book should be read by the students before coming to the Puebla program. And right now, for example, I have 2 students who are pre-meds, and a student who is working in a psychology clinic too, and the students who are going to be working in a community. But all of them should read the book, not just the pre-med students, because you are talking and touching so many areas. So could you talk a little bit about this book?
Yeah, so that book emerged from one of the many questions that I had. It emerged after I'd already been doing research in Puebla for a few years, and I really became curious as to why doctors were sometimes abusive to their patients, why they would be impatient, or why they would perform procedures that might not have always been medically necessary. And so that question emerged, and I actually started working here at the UPAEP first with medical students, and then I realized that though it was great to meet all these students, what I was really interested in was the hands-on practice. And Mexico has such a sort of layered and structured medical system where they do, it's a 6-year program, and they do 4 in the classroom, and then year 5 is the internship. And so that internship is the one that ended up being the focus of this project. I worked in 2 hospitals in Puebla. One was a private hospital, one was a public hospital. And, I spent most of my time just following these interns into various procedures and trying to understand what it was like to be learning medicine as sort of a fledgling doctor, and then as they sort of complete their year of internship, what were some of the things I'd learned about the culture of medicine.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Professor. Okay, I think that this interview is going to be very useful for the future students and for giving information about what is your work and everything about you here in Puebla.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.